Welcome to Your Greatest Life. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Unwinding Stress. I'm Dr. Kevin Gyurina, where we take time to interview professionals, experts, go over tools and techniques so you can be empowered to live your best life. And today, I have Carole Gold, a mediator, lawyer, natural and intuitive healer, someone I hold in the highest regard, and I'm happy to have on our conversation today talking about stress and things that we can do at home and information we can use to empower ourselves and enrich ourselves. Carole, welcome aboard today. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Kevin. It's great to be here and always good to interact with you.
Yes. And, Carole, I just want to jump right into it. Carole's been a radio host, a podcast host. She's done live classes, experiential workshops. She does private guidance, the mediation. And this is how I first met Carole, in fact. She walked into my office, wow, this is more than 12 years ago, I believe, just about 12 years ago. And Carole ended up working on me that first session, not the other way around. And from that point forward, we have been friends and helping each other navigate the world together. And we've, since I believe 2013, we parted ways and went to different parts of the world. And we keep finding ourselves back together again here and there over the last 3 or 4 years. But there's something coming about that's really important for the world. And Carole, you're someone I love to have conversations with about stress, about the body, about our pain, about what we can do to reorient our thinking. So share a little bit about what you do, and then we'll hop more into the conversation.
Well, I guess I'd like to work backwards, not from what I do so much, but something you just said, because I can promote myself. I can talk about what I do. You gave a really good summary of the various areas in which I both have education and training in terms of my legal background, my mediation. But you just said something about stress that we're all dealing with. And Kevin, you know, I was just thinking earlier today as I was anticipating talking with you on the show, for at least a decade, we've heard about preppers, we've heard about people wanting to live off the grid, right?
Yes.
And I thought today, you know, that's not the grid we have to get off of. The grid we have to get off of is the psychological and emotional manipulation and dependence upon external manipulation, external information, external disinformation, external misinformation. It's everything that's happening around us that's causing the chaos and therefore the stress on us as individuals that we really need to disengage from, because those, as I like to say, frequencies are inconsistent with our highest selves, which is where we want to be, both physically. You know this as a chiropractor, you want to be in alignment, but what is it we want to be in alignment with? We want to be in alignment with the highest possible frequency that we as humans can vibrate at. And that's not what we're getting through the technology.
That's right. Well, technology, I like to compare it to a spoon. We can use it for our benefit, or it can harm us tremendously. And
I compare it to a gun. Compare it to a spoon. It's any inanimate object, right? I mean, in and of itself, it has no power. It can't do anything until the human either picks it up or logs in or whatever. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Well, Carole, you talked about aligning with the highest frequencies. Share more about that. What does that look like in day-to-day life?
Well, my premise is that at the subatomic level, everything is energy, right? At the quantum level, everything is energy.
That's right.
And so we, of course, are energy vibrating at a particular frequency, because all energy, whether it's light, whether it's sound, it vibrates, it moves at a particular frequency. And so the goal of the human, because we're pretty highly evolved on the chain of evolution, the human's challenge is to be able to maximize your vibratory rate, right, at the frequency at which you're in essence existing or broadcasting or receiving even. Mm-hmm. And so because everything is energy, when you ask me what does that look like day to day, I think it looks like making life-affirming decisions. And it looks like holding life-affirming thoughts. And it looks like speaking life-affirming words, because I liken energy, or the use of, I call it right useness, the rightful use of energy. I think it's a cosmic law. I think that if you take the O out of the word righteousness, you take the O out of that word, you're left with right useness. Because I believe that, in a sense, religion has hijacked a much more basic concept in the universe, which is energy. So you don't have to be righteous or charitable or loving or giving and find yourself falling short of those things in a religious or a spiritual construct. You can just say, am I using my energy rightly? Because if you use your energy rightly, you'll be charitable, you'll be compassionate, you'll be loving. So the example I like to give, Kevin, is that if I buy an appliance in the United States and that appliance is calibrated at 110 volt and I plug it into a 110 outlet, the appliance works fine. But if I take that appliance to France or England and I plug it into a 220, what happens? I break the circuit. I probably blow out the appliance. Yeah. Why? I misused energy. I didn't line it up. I had incompatible frequencies. Right. Well, if I have a certain amount of energy that I'm born with, I call it a quantum or a packet of energy, we all do, and I get X amount of years to use it up, and I use it to hate you or to be jealous of you or envious, then I'm misusing my energy. But if I used it to love you or to feel compassion for you or empathy for you, then I'm using the energy properly. So when I misuse it, and as a chiropractor who's incredibly spiritual as you are and incredibly attuned as you are, you know, if you misuse that energy, you make the body sick.
That's right.
Why? This is the appliance. This is the appliance that we're given. So how we use the energy that this appliance is gifted with really matters.
You know, Carole, you said it very poignantly. It's so beautiful. Our emotional states and our physical aches and pains and symptoms that can be diagnosed, these are I look at them as the signs the body is not in the right use of our energy. Right. And it's not that it's wrong, it's just the indicators that something is out of balance, something's not being used appropriately, something's being drained or burnt away, so to speak. If you could, share a little bit more on your experiences or insights into that conversation.
Well, it's called free will, right? We get to choose how we use the energy. That's what it is. And so it's a lot simpler than people think. And when you said, what does it look like day to day? We all know when we're making decisions that are not in our highest good. We all know that, but we're human and fallible and we do it because we think, in a sense, you can kind of get away with it in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. So whether it's an addiction, whether it's an unethical business decision, whether it's unkindness to someone who we're not feeling so loving toward, we all know when we're doing that, but we all sort of walk those lines all the time, thinking that there's no consequence. There's always a consequence when you misuse energy. It's a law of the universe. These are universal laws. They don't change at the human level, right? If you misuse the energy of how you plant your garden, right? If you don't tend to it properly, if you don't nourish it properly, you're going to get sick or dead bushes. You're going to get bad fruit. You're going to get bad vegetables because there are laws of how to use the energy. And when you comply with them, then suddenly you're healthier. You know, I had an incident recently. You don't know this, Kevin, but I had an injury to my leg and my back was really a problem. So I went to the medical doctor. I got chiropractic adjustment repeatedly, and I wasn't getting better. Mm-hmm. So I went to the medical doctor, and they had a couple X-rays, and they tested my kidney and all these things, and it wasn't anything. And then a friend of mine said, "Have you read Heal Your Back by David Sarno?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Don't you remember what happened to me?" This friend of mine 30 years ago was due to go in for disc surgery. She had a herniated disc, and I drove her to the pre-op appointment. She was using a cane. She couldn't stand straight. She was hunched over. She had her pre-op appointment and came out to the car and said to me, I'm so terrified of this surgery. I'm so afraid of back surgery. I don't want to do it. A few days later, someone recommended a book to her. So she got the Sarno book, and then she actually went to New York to meet with him. She never had the surgery. She cured herself using his method. So she said to me, have you read the book? And I said, no. So I went and ordered the book, came the next day on Amazon. This was about 3 weeks ago. I had been on the couch for almost 10 days with pain. And I read the book in one day, and by the time I was done the book, the pain was gone.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And it hasn't come back since.
Well, a state of mind. So you found something, I'm assuming, that unlocked a perspective that you had about something in your life. It may not even be directly related to your pain that you can consciously wire together, but something changed.
It was an awareness that when they often think it's bone, it's actually muscle pulling bone.
Yes.
And it's muscle that's so tense because it's holding energy, right? So anger or anxiety are the two most common. Mm-hmm. And it can be new or it can be very old energy. But if it's trapped, right, if you're not consciously dealing with that emotion or those emotions, and they're sort of buried or hidden, and they're hidden in the muscle because they're in your subconscious, but they're still there, then until you acknowledge and release those emotions, those muscles can't relax. And when they do, then the bone can go back to where it belongs.
That's right.
That's in essence what I understood it to be. And somehow in the reading of it, it helped me personally. Now, my point about all this is I'm not saying that method would work for everyone, but there is wisdom in understanding that thoughts are things and emotions are real and they manifest in the physical body and they are energy like everything else. And if they're misapplied or they're misused or they're misstored, if there's such a word, in the body, then you're going to get malformations. You're going to get a body that is not optimally functioning. And for me, it always comes back to that right useness of energy.
That's right. Well, Carole, you know that term right useness was a foundational principle that I learned with you, and it made sense on a lot of levels. And to tie it into what we're talking about now, in the world of holistic healthcare, there's three foundational reasons why our bodies break down. There's the physical causes, there's the chemical and nutritional causes, the mental and emotional causes. And we all have the experiences of getting sudden bad news or having an incident happen around us that causes our physical body to respond in that runaway or that freezing or that fighting type of energy. We all know that and have had that experience. Though when we have these subtle thought patterns, whether they're conscious or subconscious, and I want to remind everybody, 90% of our thought processes are subconscious. And so these things are going on all the time. And part two to this, if we were to look at how a baby develops from the sperm and the egg meeting all the way to a full-grown adult, there's nothing that separates the nervous system wiring to the physical body parts and the flow of quote-unquote energies between different systems. The human body is built to perfection. And when we're seeing these symptoms, they are a reflection. It's almost a backdoor look into what's going on in the mind to the areas we cannot fully address. Though if we thought about it, if we sat and had nice conversations about it, if we took our time and listened to ourselves, well, then those stories arise, and through the proper mediation and through the proper guidance, and oftentimes this is where a mentor like yourself, a guy like yourself, Carole, came in for me in my life, helped me navigate major changes in my life, and now looking back, come to find out this was major changes for the universal energies back in 2012 after we had been working for about 2 years or so. And I think I know that we're at another major crux point in making change in life, and it's happening internally and externally. And this is where you specialize in helping people navigate change. So,
it's funny,
Carole, let's catch up on that in just a moment.
I'm a mediator in the legal sense, and I do legal mediation, but I like to say that I mediate realities because that's really, in my mind, that's what I do.
Carole, let me hold you there, Carole.
Things, right?
Carole, let me hold you there.
What we get out of them. Let's
talk about that in just a second. We're going to go to commercial, and let's talk about mediating realities upon return, okay?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
lots of windows, great light.
But the birds. They're back.
Yes, I hear them.
Uh-oh. Why are these birds so angry?
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
We save a lot.
I'm going. Ah!
Hurry!
I know.
For bundling made easy, go to geico.com.
Welcome. I'm Barry Lefkowitz. I'm your host on New Perspectives on RVN TV. I come to you each week with issues and topics that you will generally find in the news. And if you're looking to be able to get caught up and know what's going on, then New Perspectives is the show for you on RVN TV. Look forward to having you.
Your mom's gotta go.
Oh, she's family.
Like daughter, like mother.
Well, what is that supposed to mean?
She's using my Old Spice moisturizer with shea butter for impossibly smooth skin, and she's wearing my robe. It's bad enough you use up all my body wash, and now her.
We're out. Nice robe.
Thanks, Mom. Thank you. You got good taste. That's your mama.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have Carole Gold with me here today, and we're talking about stress. We're talking about unlocking stress and walking through and the effects it has on people. So we just ended with the conversation of mediating reality. So Carole, if you could share a little bit more about what you mean by that term and how that helps people.
Well, you know, we talk about 3D, right? That we live in 3D reality, but we know there are other dimensions. And so I like to say that there are people who are simply more tuned in than others, like frequency, again, AM and FM. You know, if you, let me back up. If you want to hear Beethoven, you can listen to AM all day and you're unlikely to hear Beethoven, right? But if you turn on FM, if you dial into the right frequency, then suddenly there's the music you want to hear. Well, there are frequencies that we hear and frequencies that we don't hear. There's radio waves that we don't hear, yet they communicate information. Sonar that can only be heard at certain levels. Dolphins communicate at different frequencies. And so there's always information out there in the universe, and it's a matter of being able to tune into it. So when I meet with people individually to coach or counsel, or like I say, mediate realities, I bring to the moment sort of a different perspective. So for example, we were talking earlier about physical illness, right? I like to say that pain isn't meant to make you suffer. Physical pain is not meant to make you suffer. It's meant to bring you present.
That's right.
Meaning that when you're in pain, you're always present because the pain keeps you there. It is an attention grabber. And in reality, in any reality, that's where you want to be. You want to be present in your life. And so oftentimes we get, and the reason you want to be present in your life is because the only time you can really do anything about anything is in the present moment.
Right.
It's called a present because it's a gift. The present moment is a gift. It's your present from the universe. You can't change the past. You can't change the future till it gets here, but you can always do something in the moment. So when pain is bringing you present, instead of asking instead of getting lost in the pain or feeling badly about yourself or victimized by the pain or the circumstances that cause it, you have to ask yourself, what's happening in this moment that will help me transcend the pain? And usually it's an awareness of either your own thinking, your own speaking, or your own doing. It's usually something we're doing in our lives that's causing us the pain. So an example with a client recently, I had a young man who was, he had created an app and he was getting a patent for the app and he was developing his product and marketing and looking for marketing financing and early seed money, etc. And he had done a tremendous amount of work, 2 years, 3 years, bringing this to market, almost to market. And now he was needing to raise money and he was angry. He was very angry at his situation. He was angry at now having to search for money. And I kept trying to help him see that all his pain, his body sort of twisted up. He got physically very sick. And I said, you're doing this to yourself. Can you not see that your stress over the money is what you're turning in on yourself? And it's that. It's just bringing a different perspective to the moment, which is why I say mediate realities, because there's always more than one operational at any point in time. And if you can stand in the other reality and look down or look up at the other reality, you can bring someone a perspective that they might not be able to see themselves because they're trapped in their suffering.
That's exactly right. And one of the biggest insights I was given was when I began to study Chinese acupuncture and look at the meridian system and how it correlates with the central nervous system and the spinal cord, how it correlates with every organ in the body. Each organ is related to a different meridian, and each meridian has connections to different spinal segments and different thinking patterns and different human chemistry patterns. And you're telling the story about this gentleman you worked with. I'm thinking about my foot, what I'm having an issue with right now. And where all my pain is centered is right at the end of the kidney meridian, which is the bottom of the foot. And it's associated with different words around unable to do things that are wanted and fear. And so as I address those topics in my own life, the changes in my foot pain occur. So what I'm getting at is every pain that people have in their life, there's a relationship to a mental state. There may be a physical cause, yes, there may be a physical correlation to an issue happening, but there's a mind realm. Carole, you mentioned something about natural law, and this is where I come back to the understanding that our thoughts are the most powerful forces in our reality, because the first law in natural law is mentalism. Something along the lines of all is mind and mind is all, and sometimes there's a bit of a more
it's Ernest Holmes, isn't it?
I believe.
Yeah.
Though this is where the work of Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction material falls underneath, this whole category of universal law. You mentioned right useness, universal law. These are things the human body is naturally given the ability to do. These feelings of sadness, depression, and happiness, and excitement, and everything else in between. The pains in our body and whatnot. So, Carole, for you and how you help people, where can people find out more about what you do, or what's the best website for them to go to?
Thank you. They can go to Carole, C-A-R-O-L-E, Gold, CaroleGold.com. I also, Goldstein is my legal name. I use Gold professionally. Both of them will get you to the same website, Carole Gold or CaroleGoldstein.com. And if they're looking for either private coaching mediation that I spoke about, mediating realities, or they've got a legal mediation issue, you can go to the mediationpractice.com. You can also get there from my website, but you can directly go to the Mediation Practice. Also, Kevin, I have a podcast, if I can plug my own.
Yeah, please.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday on iHeartRadio and Spotify, Pandora, iTunes. It's called Think for Yourself with Carole Gold, because there's a couple of them, Think for Yourself, but this is with me, Carole Gold. And it's all about the higher message. I take a look at the news and I try to see what we can take away from the negativity and the chaos, what we can do to elevate our own consciousness and therefore raise the overall frequency of humanity.
Well, there you go, right there. It's another portion of the natural law, the law of correspondence, the law of opposites, if I can say it that way. We have the negative spin of the media world, the clickbaity world, though there is an absolute positive message to be had from it, though it's hard to dig out. It's hard to see.
I feel blessed in that regard. As I said, I do this 3 days a week and I always find the higher message. It's become a second nature to me, because I think it's a muscle. I think it's like anything else, that once you begin to train yourself to look for the higher message, You find the higher message. And at this point, I can look at any story, no matter how tragic, and I manage to pull out where the inspiration is. And I think the world really needs that now, because the chaos and the fear are very ratcheted up for very deliberate reasons, and it has its effect not only on the psyche but also on the body.
Well, absolutely, and this is, well, without saying it, classic conditioning. You know, the idea of ring the bell and feed the dog. Dr. Pavlov, not a psychologist, a physiologist, I have learned within the past, recent past. But that being said, we are being conditioned to look for the negative, to look for the problem in the situation, and that turns on stress factors that are a phenomenal breakdown over when it's a sustained stress over a period of time. Is a significant breakdown to the human body and the human relationship. And I noticed when we were talking about some of your offerings, you have something called, what was it, the Relationship Gap Survey? Yeah,
I do. Thanks for mentioning it. Kevin, let me just go back 1 second and say this. It isn't just the fear and the chaos, it's the separation. They've separated us between COVID and the political left and right. They're keeping us separate. And the danger of that is what every cult does to control people. It keeps people separate from everything they've known and the people they've known, their friends and their family. It's how you groom someone for a cult. That psychology has been used. This is so wonderful. There's a hummingbird at my window as I'm talking. That psychology is what's being used. It's in essence cult-like psychology to keep us all separate from one another and fearful of one another. Thank you. In terms of the Relationship Gap Survey, after 12 years, 15 years actually, of doing divorce law, I figured out a way to help people stay together, not get divorced. And so it's an incredible test that a couple can take individually online. It's PDF fillable. They take it separately, they send it back to me, I score it, and I show them exactly where in their relationship they're having some gaps. And then they can come to me or anyone else to mediate those gaps so they don't wind up in long-term marital therapy or psychoanalysis. It's really quite amazing, and it's helped countless couples stay together.
Well, thank you, Carole, for sharing more. I want to spend hours more talking with you and sharing much of what we could talk more on. But everyone, please check out Carole Goldstein's information, her websites. I can fully attest to her authenticity and her expertise. My goodness, I know I gain significant advantage every time I listen to one of your podcasts, and it's so interesting what you sent. You recommended for me to listen from your library, and it's so poignant on a lot of levels. So everyone, please support our guest today, and thank you for your time and attention on today's episode of Unwinding Stress. I know you can do it. It's built within you. You have what it takes within you to live your best life. Until next week, I'm Dr. Kevin Gyurina with Unwinding Stress. Thank you.